Welcome back to the deep dive. It is, let me check the date, February 22, 2026.
Yep, 2026 is flying by.
It really is. And if you're checking your calendar right now, you might realize that usually when we sit down to unpack a stack of sources, we are looking at the bleeding edge.
Right, the absolute frontier of tech.
Yeah, we're usually talking about the latest in, I don't know, neural network architecture or shifting geopolitical alliances.
Or the newest breakthrough in sustainable fusion energy. We like the future.
Exactly. We like speed. We like to move fast.
We do. We're usually very serious, very forward-looking people.
Totally. We like to think we're keeping you ahead of the curve, but today
Today is a little different.
Today, we are hitting the brakes.
Yeah.
I mean, we are screeching to a halt.
Taking a hard left turn off the information superhighway.
I'm parking the car. We're diving into a specific, somewhat obscure corner of the internet today.
The very interesting corner.
Yeah, it's the blog of Netizen, authored by Paramendra Kumar Bhagat. And here is the kicker. We aren't looking at his usual tech analysis.
No, and that's what makes this so fascinating. Usually, this author is writing about agentic AI, or marketing escape velocity.
High-level futurist stuff.
Exactly. But the sources you handed me for today, this isn't about velocity. This is about zero velocity.
Zero. We are looking at a collision.
A really strange collision.
A super specific collision between modern hustle culture, corporate gym franchises, specifically Planet Fitness, and ancient biblical literalism.
It's such a wild mix, and honestly, it is a refreshing change of pace for us. We're looking at satire today, sure, but it's satire that's deeply rooted in theology.
It's high-context humor.
Very high context.
So let's set the mission for today's deep dive. We have 3 distinct threads to unravel from this source material. First, we have a story written almost like a modern legend about a quiet religious boycott of Planet Fitness.
A boycott that accidentally destroyed the business.
Right, and the twist is they don't destroy it with protests or lawsuits.
They destroy it with scripture.
Yes, malicious compliance with a Bible verse.
Which is brilliant.
Then second, we have the saga of a character named Lazlo. He is basically the ultimate slacker.
A cosmic loophole artist.
Exactly. He uses theological arguments to redefine the very concept of work so he never has to do any.
Which, let's be real, is a very dangerous philosophical game to play.
Oh, absolutely. And third, just so we don't float away entirely on a cloud of jokes today, we are going to do a serious, scholarly breakdown of the biblical concept of sloth.
We really need to see what's actually being satirized here.
Right, because the jokes are funny, but they're playing with fire.
That's true. The humor works best when you actually understand the source material it's playing with.
Yeah.
There was a real tension there between the modern demand to be busy.
The grind set.
Yeah, the grind set and the ancient command to rest. But then you also have the counter warning against laziness. It is a complex web of theology and sociology.
And it's hilarious. I mean, the limericks alone, we're going to get into those.
Oh, the limericks are something else.
So get comfortable. We are going, as the author puts it, Old Testament long, New Testament smug, and apocryphal unhinged.
I love that description. It really sets the tone for the level of irreverence we're dealing with today.
Let's jump right into part 1, the Planet Fitness Apocalypse.
Okay, let's do it.
This comes from a blog post titled Netizen, on a mission to drive Planet Fitness out of business. Now, when you hear boycott or mission to drive out of business, especially right now in 2026, you think picketing.
Oh, yeah. You think anger. You think cancellation.
Big noise.
Megaphones, people shouting slogans outside the doors, blocking the parking lot.
Exactly. But the premise here is the exact opposite. The text describes a group that is quite ambitious but not hostile, just calmly religious.
Calmly religious.
They show up in town with a holy throwdown, but they aren't outside the gym. They go inside.
They are members.
Right. They paid their $10. They have the black card.
They're fully authorized to be there.
And their weapon isn't a protest sign. It is a Bible held tight. Specifically, they have weaponized one single verse. And if you grew up going to Sunday school, or if you've ever bought a coffee mug at a Christian bookstore, you know this exact verse.
Psalm 46.0.
Yeah. Psalm 46.10.
Be still and know that I am God.
Be still. Now, usually that verse is metaphorical, right?
Usually, yes. It means quiet your heart. Trust in providence.
Don't let anxiety take over.
Exactly. It's about internal peace in the midst of chaos. It is not usually an instruction for physical immobility.
But imagine applying that verse literally, physically, in a Planet Fitness.
It's the absolute antithesis of a gym. A gym is a temple of movement. It's about kinetics.
Feeling the burn.
Getting your heart rate up.
Yeah.
If you are being still in a gym, you are fundamentally breaking the social contract of that space.
The blog breaks this down into what it calls the Book of Stillness, which is an entire series of limericks. And I want to read some of these in detail because the imagery is just, it's chef's kiss. It is so specific.
Let's hear the first one.
Okay, here's the one that really sets the scene. The squat racks all trembled in fear as the faithful drew ever more near. No burpees, they sighed. Just read what's inside. The verse was uncomfortably clear.
Uncomfortably clear. That's the key phrase right there. They're weaponizing literalism.
Right.
If the Bible says be still, then doing a burpee, which involves jumping, dropping, pushing up and jumping again, is technically an act of defiance against the Almighty.
It creates this incredible scene. The text says the treadmills fell silent, ashamed.
Ashamed treadmills.
The ellipticals were quietly blamed. And then this specific description of the trainer. Listen to this. The trainer just froze. Mid-feel the burn pose, outmatched by theology game.
It is a clash of authorities.
Completely.
You have the trainer who is the authority side of the body. He's shouting commands, push, harder, one more rep.
Sweat it out.
Right. And then you have these people appealing to a higher authority, the ultimate authority, that says, no, actually don't move.
And who can argue with that? If you tell the trainer, I'm tired, he says, too bad. If you tell the trainer, God told me to sit here, what does he do?
He freezes. He's completely outmatched. He doesn't have a theology degree to debate the exegesis of the Psalms on the gym floor.
There's another limerick that targets the equipment specifically. Listen to this one. The treadmills cried out, but cardio's good. They answered, so is being misunderstood. For nowhere, we've read, did Paul ever tread a belt-driven hamster of wood.
A belt-driven hamster of wood. That is a devastating description of a treadmill.
It really is. It strips away all the fitness marketing. It's not a cardio station. It's a hamster wheel made of plywood and rubber.
And the theological point they raise there, do Paul ever tread? It's a really funny argument from silence.
Yeah.
The Apostle Paul walked thousands of miles. He walked from Jerusalem to Damascus to Antioch to Rome. But he was walking to somewhere.
He had a destination. He wasn't paying a monthly fee to walk in place.
Exactly. The treadmill is movement without destination. Stillness, in their view, is the rejection of futile effort. It's actually very clever.
And they call it a quiet, vicious plan. The text mentions the famous Planet Fitness lunk alarm. You know that alarm they set off if you drop weights or grunt too loudly?
Yes, it's their brand signature, the no judgment zone, which ironically uses a loud flashing siren to judge you for working out too hard.
Right. So listen to how the protesters handled the lunk alarm. The lunk alarm tried one last brave cry, but was silenced by scripture applied. No grunts, no distress, just aggressive stillness and a judgmental look from on high.
Aggressive stillness. That's such a paradoxical phrase, but it captures the method of resistance perfectly.
It's passive resistance taken to a comical extreme.
Usually a protest is loud. This is a protest of absolute silence.
And a judgmental look from on high. They're judging the gym for its lack of holiness.
Which flips the script entirely.
Yeah.
Usually the gym judges you for being out of shape. Now the out-of-shape people are judging the gym for being too worldly.
It really is a revolution. And the result isn't a violent clash. It isn't a riot. It's an economic collapse.
Yeah, a slow death.
The text describes it as the quietest boycott ever rolled out. They cancel their memberships one by one. No exit surveys, no dramatic scenes, just a verse and a nod, a slow walk with God.
And for a business model like a gym, which relies heavily on subscription volume and churn, that silence is terrifying.
Because they aren't churning.
Right. If you have 100 people occupying your machines but not moving and not leaving and then slowly canceling down the line, you are bleeding revenue while your facility is held hostage by silence.
It's basically a denial of service attack, but performed by human bodies.
Precisely. A physical DDoS attack.
The text says suddenly profits were done. It describes the purple machines looking confused and betrayed.
Which anthropomorphizes the equipment in a very funny way. The machines exist to be used. By not using them, the protesters are stripping the gym of its core purpose.
Yeah.
A treadmill that no one runs on is just a really heavy piece of furniture that takes up too much floor space.
And there is this great theological satire embedded in the retort to the trainer. The trainer screams, push through the pain, and the faithful whisper back, that's pride, also possibly pain.
Equating the burn of a workout with the biblical sin of pride, or the mark of Cain, that is quite a stretch. But in the logic of the satire, it fits perfectly.
How so?
Well, Cain was marked for his sin. Pain is a mark of something being wrong in the body. Therefore, if you are in pain, you are sinning.
It's watertight logic if you don't think about it for more than 2 seconds.
Which is the best kind of logic for satire.
It ends with Planet Fitness becoming a gym-shaped myth, a cautionary tale for the soul. And the final lesson of the poem is, stillness, it turns out, is biblically ripped.
Which is a fantastic play on words.
Oh, I loved that line.
Ripped usually means muscular definition. You go to the gym to get ripped. Here, ripped means powerful, effective, or perhaps torn apart in the sense of the business being destroyed.
It sets the stage for the rest of the deep dive really well. We're looking at how religious language can be twisted hilariously to justify doing absolutely nothing.
Which leads us directly to our main protagonist today, the man who takes this from a localized gym protest to an entire lifestyle.
Yes. Let's move to part 2. We're shifting from the specific gym protest to the broader philosophy of work. The blog post is titled Sabbath Shenanigans, and it introduces us to a character named Lazlo the Lounger McIdle.
Also referred to later in the text as Sir Lazlo, the Eternal Lounger von Snoozeland.
A man of many titles but very little action. His credentials are listed as professional napper 1990 to present.
That is a very solid career track, 36 years of experience in horizontal positioning.
Lazlo is described as a cosmic loophole artist. And his entire philosophy, his weaponized incompetence, relies on asking one single question.
What is work?
It sounds so simple, it sounds almost Socratic.
It does. Socrates went around Athens asking, what is justice? What is virtue? Lazlo sits on his couch asking, what is work? But in Lazlo's hands, it isn't about finding truth. It's about evasion.
But the source material sets up the conflict perfectly. You have the Sabbath commandment. On the day of Sabbath, you do no work. Lazlo's logic is, if you don't define work clearly, you can't be accused of doing it.
It's a deconstructionist approach to chores.
Right.
If I don't acknowledge that taking out the trash is work, maybe it's just a hobby. But Lazlo goes the other way entirely. He wants to define everything as work so he can avoid doing it.
The text places this in a very modern context, specifically right now in 2026. It imagines a TED Talk panel debating this question. You have a rabbi, a CEO, and a yoga instructor.
The rabbi quotes Exodus, the standard interpretation, 6 days labor, 1 day rest. Very clear structure.
But the CEO says, labor, that's just unpaid overtime for passion projects.
Which is such a sharp bite at modern corporate culture. The idea that if you quote-unquote love what you do, it's not work, so you should just do it all the time. It's the ultimate hustle culture trap.
And the yoga instructor chimes in with, work is an illusion.
Which is great for mindfulness, but terrible for paying the mortgage.
Exactly. But Lazlo asks the questions that actually matter in the modern gig economy. He asks, is scrolling TikTok work?
Well, is it? You are generating data. Someone is monetizing your eyeballs. In a way, you are a laborer in the data mines of the algorithm.
But it feels like leisure to the user. So Lazlo is confused. He then asks, is arguing with strangers on Reddit work?
Yeah, it certainly feels exhausting.
It really does.
It raises your cortisol levels. It requires typing. It requires a lot of emotional energy.
And then he asks, is thinking about laundry work?
The mental load. That is a very real psychological concept. Planning the task is often harder and more draining than actually doing the task.
Lazlo argues that if he doesn't know what work is, he is entirely exempt. The blog even cites an expert, a Dr. Procrastination from the University of Netflix, who calls Lazlo's method veganism for effort.
Veganism for effort. That is a brilliant phrase. Just as a vegan avoids all animal products, Lazlo avoids all effort products. Zero exertion.
The text also satirizes the reaction of the hustlers to Lazlo's lifestyle. It mentions Elon Musk, satirically portrayed, of course. It portrays him tweeting from a 168-hour work week.
Which, as we know, is the total number of hours in a week. So he is working 247.
Never sleeping. Musk tweets, Lazlo would last 5 minutes at SpaceX or 5 naps. And Jeff Bezos is depicted on his space yacht, claiming Lazlo couldn't deliver a punchline without napping.
It highlights the extreme polarization of our time. On one side, you have the grind set work 168 hours, colonize Mars, optimize every single second of your life. On the other side, you have Lazlo, who won't even lift the remote control because it might burn a calorie.
And there's a support group mentioned too, Sabbath Survivors Anonymous, for people who accidentally checked email on a Sunday.
Which, let's be honest, is a very real anxiety for people trying to disconnect today. The guilt of the notification badge.
It is. Now, as we move into part 3, the joke escalates. The source material goes into Sabbath Shenanigans 2.0 and 3.0. Lazlo isn't just a guy on a couch anymore. He becomes a whole movement. He founds the Church of Eternal Chill.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
Every movement needs an institution.
Services are delivered via TikTok dances. Tithing involves sharing memes. But what I really love is Lazlo's survival guide, the levels of avoidance. We have to walk through these because they are ridiculous, but they follow a weird internal logic.
Okay, let's break them down.
Level 1 is basic, brushing teeth.
According to Lazlo, that is dental engineering.
Dental engineering.
Yes, it involves tools, it involves friction, therefore it is manual labor, therefore totally exempt on the Sabbath.
That is disgusting, but I follow the logic. Level 2 is pro, breathing.
He argues it's just too laborious. The expansion and contraction of the diaphragm, too much work. He advises his followers to switch to autopilot.
And level 3, God tier, existing.
Just passive income from the universe.
Tax-deductible laziness, it's brilliant. But the real meat of this section, and where the text really leans into that close reading we promised to the listeners, is the list of biblical puns, the 3.0 list.
The author goes through almost every book of the Bible and twists the title into a pun about being lazy. It is extensive.
We have to trade a few of these. Let's do a rapid fire. I'll start with the beginning. Genesis.
Lazlo argues that birthing ideas is labor, so exempt. No brainstorming allowed.
Leviticus.
Thou shalt not lift a finger unless it's to change channels.
That's a bit of a stretch, but I like it. Deuteronomy.
Dude or what? Sounds like a second helping of dude or nothing.
Oh, that is painful. Dude or nothing.
It is absolute dad joke level theology.
The prophets get hit hard too. Hosea, lot of nothing.
Jonah boat to nowhere.
Micah drop questions.
And for the Gospels. Napthew, snooze mark, lounge Luke.
It's relentless. It paints a picture of a world where people are just desperate to find a holy justification for checking out.
The puns get even more obscure. Obadiah rules. Nahum work ethic. Nahum work ethic. No work ethic. That one is actually pretty clever.
Haggai on the couch.
And the epistles, Galatians level.
Free from the Ephesians of effort.
Colossians level.
Full of Thessalonians.
Wait, explain that one to me again.
The text actually has to explain it in parentheses. It says, that's the Thessalonians for spa days.
Oh, no. The Thessalonians. That is truly terrible.
It's magnificent in its awfulness.
And the text takes this whole movement to a global scale. It mentions the invention of intergalactic Lazlo Day.
Where world leaders just take naps, Putin in pajamas, Biden with ice cream. It imagines a geopolitical ceasefire caused entirely by a collective need to nap.
And my favorite part of the escalation and alien invasion occurs.
Yes. This is the climax of the narrative arc for Lazlo.
But it is stopped. Not by laser weapons, not by diplomacy, not by a computer virus like in Independence Day.
It is stopped because the aliens ask, what is invasion?
They catch the Lazlo virus.
They do. They decide, we seek the Sabbath shalom. It posits that laziness or stillness is actually the ultimate peacekeeping force. If no one can be bothered to invade, you have instant world peace.
It's a funny thought experiment, but it's also a deep commentary on conflict. Conflict requires energy. It requires work. If you remove the will to work, you effectively remove the capacity for war.
It's a profound idea wrapped in a goofy joke about aliens.
Yeah.
But you are here to keep us grounded, because while this is all very funny, the source material does take a serious pivot here. There is a whole section called Biblical Examples of Laziness.
Right, and this is important context. The satire works so well because it is playing against a very serious backdrop. The Bible actually has a lot to say about laziness, and it is not generally positive.
No.
In fact, it's quite harsh.
So let's unpack the real theology that Lazlo is actively trying to dodge. The text uses a specific word, sluggard.
The sluggard. In Hebrew, the word is apsal. It's a great word. Strictly speaking, it refers to a lazy person, but it implies something much more specific. It's not just someone who is resting or taking a break. It's someone who has a habitual, ingrained avoidance of responsibility.
The source material lists several key biblical examples. The first one is the classic, the ant.
Proverbs 6.6:11. Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. The contrast here is all about self-motivation. The text points out that the ant has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it gathers food in the summer.
The ant works without a boss breathing down its neck.
Exactly. The ant has internal drive. The sluggard, by contrast, needs to be forced to work.
And what does the sluggard say?
A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest.
That sounds exactly like Lazlo, just a little nap.
And the consequence is severe. Proverbs says, poverty comes like a thief. The Bible warns that this behavior directly leads to ruin. Lazlo frames his napping as piety. I am keeping the Sabbath. But Proverbs frames it as a direct path to destruction.
There's another example that I think is hilarious in its original context. The lion in the street.
Oh, Proverbs 22.13.
Yeah.
The sluggard says, There is a lion outside. I shall be killed in the streets.
This sounds exactly like Lazlo asking, what is work?
It does. It's the ancient satire of excuses. The sluggard invents a catastrophic, highly improbable danger to justify staying inside all day. Can't go to work? I might get eaten by a lion.
Right.
Lazlo asks, is scrolling TikTok work? Both are manufacturing reasons to do absolutely nothing. It's about the psychology of avoidance.
The text also mentions the overgrown vineyard from Proverbs 24.
I went past the field of a sluggard. Thorns had come up everywhere. This is the physical evidence of laziness. Entropy.
Yeah, things falling apart.
In the ancient world, if you didn't work, you didn't just lose money, you starved. The wall falls into ruins, the weeds take over the crops.
And this highlights the core flaw in Lazlo's philosophy. Lazlo is sitting on a couch, he is watching Netflix, he is ordering pizza.
Right. He is the direct beneficiary of someone else's anti-sluggard behavior. The pizza delivery guy is working. The Netflix server engineers are working. Lazlo can only play his avoidance game because others are keeping the vineyard.
He is a parasite on the hustle culture he mocks.
Theologically speaking, yes.
And then there is the New Testament example provided in the text, the parable of the talents.
Matthew 25. This is the heavy hitter. You have servants given talents, which was a large sum of money. 2 of them invest it and double it. 1 buries it in the ground.
And the master returns and calls him wicked and slothful.
Because he wasted his potential. That is the theological weight of sloth. It's not just enjoying a nap on a Sunday afternoon. It's burying the gift you were given. It's a sin of omission. You didn't do something actively bad, but you completely failed to do something good.
There is also a historical example provided, King David.
2 in Samuel 11. The text says, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab. But David remained in Jerusalem.
He stayed home. He took a mental health day.
He was idle. And because he was idle, he was wandering around on his palace roof. He saw Bathsheba bathing, and that led to adultery and eventually arranging a murder.
Whoa. So the implication there is...
The implication is that idleness is a gateway sin. If David had been doing his job, leading his army in the field, he wouldn't have been on that roof in the first place. He wouldn't have committed those crimes. Work acts as a guardrail for human behavior.
And finally, Paul's admonition in Thessalonians.
The one who is unwilling to work shall not eat. It's a very blunt, practical community rule. Laziness is a burden on the rest of the community.
So when we look back at the satire we started with, the Planet Fitness boycott, the Church of Eternal Chill, it's funny because it flips all of this on its head.
Exactly. The humor comes from taking the command to rest, the Sabbath, and stretching it so far that it covers the sin of the sluggard. Lazlo is trying to claim the moral high ground of Genesis where God rested, while exhibiting the destructive behavior of Proverbs.
That is a great way to put it. The tension between God rested and don't be a sluggard.
And most of us live right in the middle of that tension. We feel guilty if we rest, but we are completely burned out from working. Lazlo just decides to resolve the tension by abandoning work entirely.
Which brings us to part 5, commandment comedy. Because Lazlo doesn't stop at just the Sabbath, the source material shows him applying his loophole logic to the other 9 commandments too.
This section actually references George Carlin and Mel Brooks.
Right.
The idea that the 10 Commandments are maybe a bit inflated, or that we can negotiate the terms with the Almighty.
Let's walk through the Lazlo loophole list. First up, no other gods.
Lazlo asks, is Netflix a god? Because I've been worshiping that binge button.
It gets a little close to home for a lot of people.
It does. It redefines idolatry as whatever consumes your attention. If you give your best hours to a glowing screen, is that your god?
Second on the list, graven images.
Lazlo asks about selfies. If I carve a statue of myself napping, is that idolatry or self-care?
It questions the modern obsession with self-image.
Are our digital avatars the new graven images?
Most likely. Third, taking the name in vain.
Lazlo suggests the holy cuss jar. He argues that saying God, this couch is comfy, is actually praise, not vanity.
It's a purely semantic argument. He's arguing intent versus vocabulary.
It's very clever evasion.
Fourth, honor thy father and mother.
Does liking their Facebook posts count?
I feel like a lot of millennials are asking that exact question right now.
It's the minimum viable product of honoring your parents. I acknowledged your digital existence. Now let me get back to my nap.
Fifth, thou shalt not kill.
Lazlo asks, does killing time count?
And he brings up the vegan debate too. Is squashing a bug murder?
Again, he's using the ambiguity of language to paralyze any action. But killing time is actually a profound phrase when you think about it. If time is a gift, Destroying it is a form of violence. Lazlo is basically a serial killer of moments.
6th, adultery.
He compares window shopping to buying. And then there's the streaming sin, using a neighbor's password.
Is sharing a password spiritual adultery?
In the corporate Bible of Netflix, perhaps, you are being unfaithful to your subscription agreement.
7th, stealing.
Borrowing indefinitely. And my personal favorite is stealing a nap rest robbery.
If you steal a nap from your employer's time, that is a form of theft, I suppose.
Theologically, yes. You are stealing time that you explicitly sold to someone else.
8th, false witness.
I saw nothing because I was asleep.
The ultimate airtight alibi.
You can't bear false witness if you're unconscious. It's the ostrich defense, head in the sand.
And finally, coveting.
The detailed breakdown here is great. Thy neighbor's house versus thy neighbor's Wi-Fi signal.
Lazlo asks, if my neighbor has better Wi-Fi, can I covet the signal?
And the list ends with a really specific jab at modern politics. The source mentions politicians pushing 10 Commandments posters in schools while allegedly breaking them constantly.
It mentions coveting thy neighbor's branch, which is a reference to a specific sports incident, I believe Klay Thompson. But the broader point is the hypocrisy of it all.
Lazlo is honest about his laziness. Politicians often aren't honest about their coveting. Lazlo is, in a weird, twisted way, the most honest character in the entire story.
It's a really comprehensive takedown of how we interact with rules. We always look for the loophole. We want the benefit of the law without the constraint of the spirit.
Precisely.
Before we wrap up, we should briefly contextualize where all of this is coming from. Part 6. Who exactly is this netizen?
So the author is Paramendra Kumar Bhagat. And if you look at the sidebar and the footer of the blog, which we made sure to do, you see a very different profile than what we've been discussing today.
Right. He usually writes about heavy, high-tech topics.
Artificial intelligence, agentic AI, marketing, escape velocity, calciism.
Titles like The $500 billion Pivot and Tesla's AI 5 chip.
Very forward-looking, very tech-heavy, very accelerationist in some ways.
So why this? Why the sudden deep dive into napping and limericks and planet fitness?
It feels like a necessary counterweight. When you spend your life analyzing exponential growth and AI speed, you need a release valve. You need the Book of Stillness.
It's the comedic break amidst the future shock.
Exactly. And the persona he adopts for the sign-off Grok McSloth really highlights that. Grok is an AI term, meaning to understand something intuitively and deeply. But McSloth is, well, self-explanatory. It's a perfect fusion of high-tech and low energy.
So let's unpack what this all means for you, the listener. We've gone from a gym boycott to a theological analysis of the sluggard.
I think the real takeaway is about the human relationship with the word must. We are constantly told we must hustle, we must be fit, we must obey.
And the humor comes from finding the wiggle room in those commands.
Right. Lazlo and the Planet Fitness protesters represent that exhausted part of us that just wants to say no. To say, I am opting out today.
But the expert in you reminds us, don't be the sluggard.
Don't let your vineyard overgrow. There has to be a balance. You can laugh at the hustle culture, but you still need to plant the seeds for tomorrow.
Here is a provocative thought to leave you with. We mentioned the author writes heavily about AI and automation. In a world where agentic AI does more and more of the actual literal labor, are we moving toward a future where work actually does become obsolete?
There's the big question of our era. If the robots do the heavy lifting, do we all just become Lazlo?
Are we destined to be the sluggard? Or does the definition of the sluggard completely change when the ants are robots?
That is a deep question. If necessity is removed, is laziness still a sin? Or is it just leisure?
Something to mull over while you rest.
Or while you aggressively practice stillness.
Exactly. I'm going to go see if I can cancel my gym membership with a limerick.
Good luck with that. Check the Book of Stillness for guidance.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you in the next one.
Stay curious.